Okay, we are back with surviving Supercon writer director Steven Shea,
Yes.
and I heard a lot of buzz about this film the past year or so. So let's hear about
Mhm.
it.
So yeah, this is a documentary on the behind the scenes of pretty much the biggest mom and pop Comic Con in the country, which was Florida Supercon. It was a 60,000 person event. We documented the 2018 show there. It's kind of the first documentary that shows like everything behind the scenes, the nuts and bolts, warts and all of pulling off one of these major events. And it's crazy. The stuff that happened, I could never have guessed would have happened, and things that were happening in the country even influence how the convention worked. And it's a new documentary that'll be coming out on November 9th on VOD, DVD, and Blu-ray. So it should be streaming almost everywhere.
Awesome, awesome. Now, is that something that you, Abysmal Entertainment, fronted the production costs, or did you reach out to a few investors to help finance that?
It originally we were brought on to shoot the documentary by the convention owners. So the convention owners, that cost up front. But
So they paid you a fee.
Mhm, to make the movie, and so since then they have actually sold that convention. Spoiler alert in the movie, but they so then the movie now is owned at Abysmal. Like Abysmal ended up picking it up, but
Oh, you
they're
got the
kind of
rights back, or you own all the
right,
rights.
right. Yeah.
Awesome.
So they had financed that at the time. It was more of a work for hire at the beginning, and then it turned into an Abysmal production, and been dealing with all of the distribution and that kind of stuff.
Beautiful. That's a win-win. So
Hmm.
you got your project financed. It was pretty. Now you approached them about documenting it, or did they reach out to you?
They reached out at the time. They kind of knew it was going to be their last show. It was the 12th year of the show, the biggest year, and so they wanted a video to kind of commemorate what they had built up over so many years. And I think the weekend just kind of what started out as a legacy video and this crazy series of events that, I mean, we had major security issues. There was a hurricane hitting, the Parkland massacre was nearby. There was like all kinds of stuff that's happening at the same weekend. And that
Can't wait to
affected the
see it.
show. That's we've gotten some good response so far for sure.
Can't wait to see it. So that's the best of both worlds. Now, were you kind of a regular at SuperCon, and that's why they knew to reach out to you?
Yep. Yeah, I had known the owners for a few years, Mike and Saint, and they had actually had made there's a Hollywood movie about SuperCon that was a very large scale multi-million dollar movie. It starred a bunch of big actors. That was like a pretty huge film compared to Malkovich stars in it, Ryan Quatain, and a bunch of other people. And that was kind of, it did not get the buzz and make the money that they had spent. I can't imagine they made their money back. But that movie came out, and the owners of the convention were not happy with how that movie turned out. So they wanted to try to do more of a documentary from their angle to showcase the convention. Even though we do talk to the filmmakers and everything in our documentary about making Supercon the movie. Um, but
Awesome. Let me ask you this, because you've been around for so long. How important is it to not just a SuperCon type shows or film markets, but just film festivals in general? How important is networking when you're trying to put together your own project?
I mean, networking is 100% important. It's definitely the most important thing in the industry. It's like you want as many friends as possible because you want to build out that batch of people. I mean, you never know who's going to end up where. I mean, we've had friends that go on to be at major studios, and you're like, oh, the guy that I hung out with in college is now the head of development at like a major studio. Like that's cool. Um, so it's
Yeah.
really it's very important, especially in the independent world, because you're always calling in favors and you're always trying to find people you can work with. As far as film festivals are concerned, personally, I'm not a huge fan of film festivals. I totally understand them, but the market has gotten so watered down nowadays, where everyone and their crazy uncle are starting film festivals just to turn a buck, that it kind of dilutes the value of it as much, unless you're premiering at a major festival or a buyer's market. It's like, I have friends that I say that they collect leaves, and so they're like, oh look, my short film has played in 35 festivals, and here's my giant stack of that I've got. And it's like, but what does that mean? Like, what did that do
Yeah,
for you?
yeah.
You grew a tree, but that's pretty much all like all you did. Now granted, there's plenty of opportunities at festivals, I feel like, to, at least the bigger festivals, to meet with distributors or network with other filmmakers, and there's always the chance of getting some good networking connections out of that. I kind of look at, we had a film that we released in 2009 that was a horror short film called 222, and it got picked up by 20 festivals and some major festivals. It played Stygius, it played Cannes, it played
Oh,
in
wow.
Los Angeles, and we won a big award in Australia. It played all over the
Wow.
world, and it was a $1,500 short. And so I worked out the numbers, what it would have cost us to do the festival, because if you play the festival, you kind of have to go, or else what's the point? And I would have spent $25,000 to $30,000 just to attend all the festivals it played. And it was like, I obviously wasn't going to spend that kind of money to do it. So then it kind of didn't really make it worth it in the end. Go to the Los Angeles festival it played, and from just that festival, I did get meetings and interviews at some agencies and things. So that was nice.
Yeah, it's
But
great,
that
great,
was,
great to open up doors.
oh yeah, and that's a Los Angeles festival, and I'd highly recommend to do a festival in a place like Los Angeles, because people can walk to the theater and see your movie, as opposed to if you're playing in the middle of Des Moines, Iowa, or somewhere that nobody can see your film at.
Yeah. So you brought up some really interesting new ways of financing movies. I hadn't really thought about, like, just connecting with 4 eager film students that were willing to put money into a film and bring you on, and then
Mhm.
Supercon, with your networking, hiring you to do a film that you ended up getting the rights back. Any other creative ideas that you can think of for first or second time filmmakers? I mean, obviously you want to just cut your budget as low as you can and be smart, but in terms of
Yeah.
actually getting sponsorships or getting money, because that's what everyone's looking for
Oh
in the
yeah.
indie filmmaking world.
I, a funny side story. I had done some teaching at the producing department at Full Sail for a few months, and I remember I had 2 students come in one day, and they were like, "Hey, we have a question. We wrote a $2.5 million script. Like, who do we call to get the $2.5 million?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, like, we want to make this movie, but where do we get the $2.5 million from?" I was like, "Well, get a job and start saving up." They're like, "Well, that's ridiculous. We can't get that much from a job." And I'm like, "Well, then get 2 jobs." Like, what
Wow.
do you mean? Like, how do you get money? What do you mean? Like,
Two and a
there's not a,
half million. I mean, start with getting like 5,000 or 50,000.
well, it's like, there's not a magical phone number I can give you where you call up and they're like, "Oh, here you go, sir. Here's your $2 million." Like, win the lottery. That's another option. Um, I mean, what I've kind of come to now, at least out here in Los Angeles, which has been great, is I've started more just pitching projects to studios, to consistent studios. So like, I'll go and pitch at Sony, or I'll pitch at Universal, and if you can get a manager and an agent to kind of get you into some of those bigger doors, it makes it a whole lot easier than trying to go out and penny pinch here and there. That's kind of what I've been doing more lately, because I can bring on, if I do get picked, then it's like, oh, here's a check, and they handle everything. And so
Yeah.
I've been doing that a lot more lately. Though I had a friend recently that had asked me to do a spec script for him. He had access to investors. He felt pretty confident about it. And so I was like, okay. So I did the spec script. A few months later, all of a sudden, the check shows up in the mail, and they were like, "Oh, we made the movie. We got the money. Here's the check."
Wow.
And it was like, "Oh, okay."
What was the
Um,
budget range on that film? Was it like over 100K, over 50K?
yeah, I think it was 300 to 400.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and that was his
And
first
did
feature.
so you wrote the script. were you done at that point, or did they bring you on to operate or assistant director, do anything?
No, they kind of had, I think they had something already set up with the studio that ended up financing it. Um, I mean, I always tell people, some filmmakers like, well, I want my movie on Netflix. And it's like, all right, well, you don't call Netflix. Like Netflix hires a production company to make Stranger Things. They hire other companies. You look at
Yeah,
all the
most of the
company
time, yeah.
credits, and it's like, you don't just walk into Netflix, you those studios and say, hey, and they're usually much easier to approach than, I mean, of course, Netflix, which is a distributor at this
Yeah.
point.
So did your
But
name stay on the script as one of the
uh-huh,
writers?
yeah,
Sweet.
yeah,
Congratulations.
thanks.
That's awesome.
I mean, I've written multiple spec scripts that never got made, so that was kind of a
Yeah, no,
surprise.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, anytime you can write a script that actually gets
Yeah.
picked up and gets distributed, that's awesome. And one of the
Um,
things I admired to you, and maybe a lesson that the full sale students trying to look for $2.5 million, you kind of bounce back and forth all the time between feature, short, short,
right.
because for you, it's always about staying on top of your game, and you never know who you might work with. So,
Yep.
more power to you.
Well, and I would say as far as the short line, especially nowadays, if you're going to make a short that, you either make a short for, I feel like, three different reasons. You make a short for fun, short to take it to festivals and try to win awards, or you make a short as a proof of concept to make a feature, to get financing for a feature. And I feel like at this point, like at a certain point in your career, you're going to want to start creating shorts for a purpose, as opposed to just making a short. And so proof of concepts have been a big thing. And we've had, benefits and negatives with proof of concept, or successes and failures with proof of concept shorts. But we did this short 222 back in 2009, and it got this huge festival buzz, and I was getting called studios and managers and stuff. And they were like, oh, well, this is fantastic. Do you want to make it a feature? And at the time I was like, I mean, I guess I never thought about it. We just made a short that we thought would be cool. And of course, as soon as you say it, they're like, oh, okay, thanks. And they hang up. And they never.
Yeah, you got to strategically think it through.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember in Orlando, but we did the short film, The Brothers, which we used
I do
that
remember
to
that.
spin off into The Bros, the feature
Yeah.
length version, which Lionsgate picked up.
Yeah, I totally remember that. That's like
So,
the ideal.
yeah, no,
the ideal
that's a perfect
situation.
example.
Mhm.
And I hear that more and more indie filmmakers now are doing exactly what you said. They're doing a short, not only for proof of concept for a feature, but also a potential web series, which a lot of the
Yeah.
studios are more and more interested in series.
Yep. And I mean, television right now is where all the money is. A lot of people are focusing more on TV, and there's so much web content. And I mean, there's 900 channels now that need 24 hours of content. Like, it's ridiculous.
Which is great for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we even did a project. We had done a proof of concept for a horror adventure project called Fiend Fatale. And I'm really big into brand packaging. So we did a short film, and then we did a video game, we did a comic book. We had like all this stuff lined up as a big package. And then we started shopping it around. You know what, this might make a better TV show. So then we restructured it as a TV series using the same materials. So now, and then we restructured it as an animated series. And so whatever anyone's interested in, we could be like, oh, well, here's the deck for the feature film, or here's the deck for the animated series. It's all still the same content, just in different avenues, because you're kind of always hoping, at least when you're in a pitching world, that you have something that hits, that somebody's looking for. And I had that happen recently, earlier this year. DreamWorks Animation, we had open pitches there, and they were trying to do family animated adventure movie, and I had written a live action family adventure movie, and my manager was like, well, hey, could you tweak this and make it animated? And I was like, sure. So I did another pass at the script and just make it a little bit more animation friendly, and then we could pitch it there.
Wow.
And now we have two versions of that project, an animated and a live action, just two different decks with the same material. So, and especially what I learned with the short film, it's like you want to have as many things as possible, so that when you do get those meetings, you do talk to either investors or studios. Oh yeah, you want to make this into a feature? Here it is. Here's the script. Here's the breakdown.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's powerful when you have all your ducks in a row
yeah,
and
and
you
it
got all these pieces to the puzzle to actually show. You got proof.
right. And I mean, there's thousands of people doing the same thing here, especially here in Los Angeles. So like I have friends that are like, well, I have an idea. And I'm like, well, what's your idea going to do? Like you need to, develop that or at least make a pitch deck, make something, to
Yeah, yeah.
showcase to
Yeah, pitch
somebody what you're
deck, a
talking.
really, really good business plan, a trailer, sizzle reel, something. So
Yep.
wise words from Steven Shea. And by the time you're watching this episode drop, definitely check out Surviving Supercon,
Yes.
streaming pretty much everywhere. Congratulations on that, Steven.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a pretty crazy documentary.
I look forward to seeing it. I've been hearing about it for quite a bit. So what are your social media coordinates, or what's the best way to follow you if anyone
Sure.
wants more info on Abysmal Entertainment?
Yeah, Abysmal, all the info is available at abysmal.com. It's ABYSSMAL, two S's. And then I'm at stevenshea.com as well, with all my personals on there. Those are
And
pretty
that's
much the two
Steven with a
best.
V, right?
With a
Excellent. And before I let you go, just a quick 60-second pitch or whatever, in case any of our Millionaire Flicks audience is watching. Any new projects you're currently fundraising for right now?
Yeah, actually, there is. Before the pandemic, I'd put together a script that was a very tight, enclosed movie that's basically about two teenagers graduating high school that get locked in a closet to play 7 Minutes in Heaven. And while they're locked in the closet, the zombie apocalypse. And the entire movie takes place inside of a closet with them dealing with each other as well as everything happening outside. And they don't have their cell phones and they don't have any way to communicate. And we had written it as a real tight, enclosed thriller that shot very simply, two actors and
Wow.
tight crew. And so we've been shopping that around. We've done a lot of buzz on that script. It's
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I would
called
think Bloomhouse or someone might like that.
yeah.
But if anyone listening, or if you did have investors, I mean, you could probably get a couple of name actors for under 200K and do it
Oh
under
yeah,
a SAG ultra low agreement, right?
absolutely. That was the plan, was to make it like a nice tight contained, especially in the post-COVID world. We would build a closet on a soundstage or space, and that would be it. You do everything in one stage, keep the same crew, not a
Awesome.
lot of
I love
talent,
it.
make it a lot easier. And so
Awesome.
that's
And
that's been
what's
what
the
we're
name of that
shopping.
project again?
It's called 7 Minutes in Hell.
Awesome. So
It's the title right
hopefully
now.
one day in the near future, we'll be able to see that as well. Steven Shea, I know you're a busy, busy guy traveling back here to LA. We finally caught up after about a month or so, but
Mhm.
thank you so much for your
Yeah,
time.
of course.
And
Thanks for having me.
hopefully we can meet in person on a red carpet somewhere soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate it, Scott. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening. And remember, it's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own indie film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com and click on the green telephone button. You'll see our calendar, and if you find an open spot, grab it. You'll get a one-on-one call with me or one of my partners. It will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.